If you're listening to this, you obviously enjoy listening to podcasts and learning something new. Well, I also listen to podcasts, and I continue to hear on top podcasts as Peter Attia's show, Drive, and Dr. Huberman, the Huberman Labs show, and Dr. Rhonda Patrick's show, Find My Fitness. There's a big common theme going on: improving your VO2 max to improve longevity. Let's dive into what that even means and why is it suddenly a trend?
Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and have you used a CGM before? CGM is continuous glucose monitor, and there's different options out there. Ideally, you can get it from your doctor, but they seem to just want to wait until you're type 2 diabetic and not be preventative. I would like us to take ownership of our health and make choices now to prevent having high, low glucose readings and optimize your health from the inside out by testing and not guessing. And that includes a CGM that goes on for 14 days, and you can order one via NutriSense. And a CGM is giving you glucose updates with a small device in the back of your arm 24/7. Totally easy. I actually did a video on my YouTube channel, Low Carb Athlete, how to apply this CGM. First time, kind of scared, but it doesn't hurt. But it gives you real-time glucose readings. Glucose response to meals. You'll learn about what foods are reactive to you, and that could be a healthy food that you think is great, but it could raise your glucose. Simple things as stevia, for me, raise my glucose. Chewing gum, raise my glucose. Stress, when I'm driving a car and there's traffic, raises my glucose. Every stress response is a glucose response. So learn how to manage your stress. Learn how to pick right foods for you, unless you can, do other lab testing and figure out vibrant wellness food zoomers, but it's kind of expensive for people. So if you can wear a CGM, it's a great way to learn about stress, food, exercise, stacking movement with your nutrition. Figure out how to balance your blood sugar. So we want to learn more about how to exercise and eat or not eat. And morning cortisol, does it raise your glucose? If there's hidden stressors at nighttime, does your glucose go up higher while you're sleeping? So it gives us lots of clues that we can put in our investigation when we are working on your personalized fueling, training, and performance program to improve fat loss, performance, and longevity. So head to NutriSense website, nutrisense.io, how it works. You can learn more about your habits, your routines, your relationship to food, a little bit more. Great app to use, and it can sync on to different programs, so you can put it all together. So if you want to get started with your journey in NutriSense, I suggest this to all my clients. Use at least 30 days. So you can do a 30-day, 90-day, different programs, but you can pick which one you want. You get the sensor in the mail, put it on, lasts for 14 days, sync it to the app, and get your readings on there. And then if you're doing my VIP coaching program, I'm working with you to correlate this data together. So begin your health optimization journey with NutriSense, and you can save on your order with our code, as usual, Low Carb Athlete. So no carbs is not our goal, it's carb timing, and using NutriSense, you can help figure out your nutrient-dense whole food plan and when to adjust your macros based on your exercise intensity, duration, based on your life stressors, and learn more. So it's nice to have this data. So test and not guess with NutriSense. Let me know how you like it. All right. What is your VO2 max? What does that even mean? How do you test it? How do you make it better? Why does it even help our longevity? So let's go into what that might mean for you, the fit and active Not necessarily healthy. I'm not saying you're healthy because you don't know unless you test. But what if you are doing zone 2 endurance training? Or maybe you're doing all your training in zone 3. How do you know? Test, not guess. Ask me about PNOE metabolic testing. Come to North San Diego and get tested or find someone near you to actually know what your heart zones are and how to improve your VO2 max and your areas of opportunity. Test and not guess, as I always say. And remember, insanity is doing the same program over and over again, expecting different results. So if it's not working for you, change it. So if you want to know how to improve your longevity, we need to do a full investigation. Okay, so I looked it up. VO2 Max. I did go to college, exercise physiology classes, and was a ACSM, health and fitness specialist, and we did VO2 Max testing all the time. What does that mean? VO2 Max is also looked at the maximal oxygen consumption. It's a measure of the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. It's often considered an important indicator of cardiovascular health and overall fitness and health. I said that wrong. Indicator of cardiovascular fitness and overall health. While it's not a direct predictor of longevity, it is associated with several factors that can influence how long you live. Here's how it might improve, how you test it. What impacts it to make it worse? That's what I want to go into as well. So cardiovascular health, we know a lot about that. VO2 max is closely linked to your heart and your lung health. Individuals with higher VO2 max tend to have a healthier cardiovascular system, which can reduce the risk of heart disease and other cardiovascular conditions, ultimately contributing to a longer, healthier, and hopefully happier life. Fitness level, people with higher VO2 max tend to be more physically active and have better endurance. Regular physical activity has numerous health benefits and associated with a longer lifespan. Again, I think a lot of us overtrain, have higher oxidative stress, and have higher cortisol output, eventually lower cortisol, and so we aren't always fit and healthy as we think. Just because we are active and compete in races or endurance events, as you know, my story, perhaps you read my book, Life is Not a Race, It is a Journey. We tend to do too much of everything that can cause more damage than good. So the Goldilocks effect for everything as we go over this. Okay, back to the research. Metabolic health. A high VO2 max is a correlation between better metabolic health, improved insulin sensitivity, and lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Good metabolic health is an important marker for longevity. So we look at metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes. Before that, remember, is insulin resistance. So we want to improve insulin sensitivity. That would also go with exercise and lifting weights, as we've been talking about. Okay, and then it's aging. As people age, their VO2 max tends to decline. Maintaining a higher level of fitness as we age, including VO2 max, higher levels can help counteract the effects of aging and improve overall quality of life. So how do you determine your VO2 max? Because everyone I hear on the top podcast, YouTube channels, look up Peter Attia on YouTube. All the videos I saw were VO2 max, zone 2 training, zone 2, and then HIIT training. What do you need to do? Because you're unique. And if you're already doing endurance training, you might not need to do more zone 2 to improve your VO2 max. Maybe that's not the solution for you, the unique individual. So you can test a cardiopulmonary exercise test, CPT. This is the most accurate method. Involves wearing a mask, measures the amount of oxygen you inhale and the carbon dioxide you exhale during progressively intense exercise on a treadmill or bike or whatever with watts I would do. And this is what I do now, trying to build that up in North San Diego, Solana Beach. I will be working at Dr. Corey's chiropractic clinic, and we are eventually going to have a treadmill and a bike, but anything with watts that I can increase resistance every minute. And our test through PNOE equipment is 9 to 12 minutes long. You can also do a submaximal test. This is what we did back in college, exercise physiology classes, we would do these 6-minute walk test or the Cooper 12-minute run. These estimate VO2 max based on your performance during submax exercise. And of course, there's equations, which are never accurate, but they estimate your VO2 max based on age, gender, weight, heart rate, response to exercise. And so while they're less accurate than direct testing, they can provide a rough estimate. So how do we improve VO2 max? We'll talk to Daniel Crumbach. The podcast comes out soon, and you can find it on my YouTube channel where I put all my video interviews up there right away. And strategies to improve your VO2 max may be a little different and for each person, as I said. Aerobic exercise, this is what Peter Attia keeps talking about, zone 2 training. Engage, I don't know why it bugs me, because we endurance athletes have been training Maffetone, max aerobic function heart rate for, I talked to Maffetone and did Mark Allen training 20 years. So this is not new. Zone 2 is what we do as endurance athletes and how I coach people doing a MAF test and doing that each month and knowing when to add speed work in when you're not getting faster. So max aerobic function test, and more information, you can check out Phil Maffetone's website. Maffetone, or the MAF method, is max aerobic function. So aerobic exercise. Engage in regular aerobic activities like running, cycling, swimming, brisk walking. Aim for 150 minutes moderate exercise per week, 75 minutes or more of vigorous intensity. Now, this is so vague. This is what the websites will say, internet search. Aerobic exercise is you listen to what I'm sharing, what I'm learning from Dr. Stacy Sims as we age as endurance athletes, and specifically female athletes. We don't need to do the zone 3 training. We want zone 2, or you want interval training, we'll talk about next. Now, when we do moderate intensity exercise, 150 minutes, we, the endurance athletes, are already working out once or twice a day, probably doing too much of everything. We want to make sure we're not doing that moderate intensity exercise where Dr. Stacy Sims talks about a heart rate that's too hard to be easy and too easy to be hard. So the workouts we're going to talk about, aerobic exercise should be zone 2 or Maffetone, max aerobic function heart rate, staying below that. Now, the second part of your workout routine, if you've been working out a long time, as I've been started doing triathlons and cycling events back in the 1995, as I find out I'm not as young as I think I am. Interval training, high intensity interval training, or HIIT, can be in a workout, as I did a bike workout this morning. We live on a hill, so you go downhill for a bike ride and it's hills coming back. So I get kind of a warm up, and then there's this long hill climb we'll do for an hour bike ride, and I'll do pickups on the steep part, get my heart rate up to 160, 165 as high as I have to work hard, 170 I don't see anymore. And then we go down the hill, and then we go to my Lake Hodges, and then there's a hill from Lake Hodges up to the main road, and then go recover. So I do pieces there. I don't do hard the whole way. So I'm doing HIIT training is 1 minute to 5 minutes, and then I could do some 10 to 30 second all out pickups and then go a little easier. And then when you go downhill or just kind of a level road, you can recover. So I find it a lot more exciting into my workout. I add that in more of my weekday workouts. And sometimes even if I'm finishing a Saturday workout, if I have energy, just kind of pick it up to the finish line. Now, this would be interval training, HIIT training, short bursts of intense training with brief recovery periods. So zone 4, zone 5, back to zone 1. That is shown to improve VO2 max efficiently. And then the other note here, they say to improve your VO2 max, of course, would be consistency. Consistency to your exercise routine for improving, maintaining VO2 max. But I would add, it's not consistent because we're already the driven, ambitious high performers here. We need to do the workout, but we need to be sure what we're mostly not doing enough of is a proper recovery. And that's when you get stronger. So if you're not recovering from your sessions, you're not improving. So if you're not improving your VO2 max, you may want to look at what are you doing in between your workout sessions and really prioritize your recovery methods. And that's why I'm excited to work at Dr. Corey's chiropractic clinic, because we have PEMF table, red light therapy, binaural beats that you'll have on headphones while you're doing some of the table, far infrared table, and cupping, and all these different type of biohacks. And I'll be doing my Pinoy metabolic testing. So it'd be super great combination, a place to come to, as well as see chiropractor. And consistency is a word, but I would also add consistency in your sleep hygiene routine, consistency in your stress management, and of course, nutrition, eating real food, avoiding packages and boxed foods. That would be an important part, and nutrient timing we'll go into another podcast. So what lowers your VO2 max? Do we blame the aging process once again that, oh, I'm getting older, my VO2 max is lower? Well, it's not the only thing. So age is, of course, naturally going to decrease our VO2 max as we get older. It's, they say, decline in cardiovascular fitness and muscle mass. So, hello, go back to what I'm learning from Dr. Stacy Sims. Why don't we train for what we lose as we get older, men and women? If we lose cardiovascular fitness and we lose muscle mass, well, do something about it. I'm so sick of people saying, oh, I'm getting older, I'm getting less fit, losing muscle. Well, instead, complaining, change how we train, as I keep saying, and do more heavy strength training, prioritize your strength training. You're not going to get it from your bikes and your runs as much as strength training. Well, doing short hill repeats and running sprints, I think, is what I also did after my bike ride today, by the way, on our street. It's a steep street, and I did 3 times up it. So it was 12 minutes, and that was my run workout today, 12-minute run. So age is important, but don't use that decline of VO2 max right there. Just bugs the heck out of me, because if it lowers because of cardiovascular fitness and muscle mass is the main reason, well, we can slow down that decrease in age, VO2 max. Sedentary lifestyle, again, that is a choice. These are all choices. So you might have a decline of VO2 max. That's because you're becoming lazy and you're training wrong, and maybe you're overtraining, maybe you are just not prioritizing strength training and you're doing an excessive amount of cardio training and not doing heavy lifting, plyometrics, doing some HIIT training properly. Most people do it wrong. They're in zone 3. They're not zone 5, zone 1. And of course, inactivity. And I don't think we need to worry about that here. We're the ones opposite of what you read about, where we're doing too much, right? So let's go into what we learn from Pinoe testing. If you can get a metabolic test, you're going to learn what your zones are. So one, as I've talked about, is your recovery period, or also your warm-up. Zone 2 is going to be where your mitochondria function is, where you're improving it, and your fat burning efficiency. So engaging in zone 2 workouts enhances your ability to utilize fat as a fuel source, which is going to be different. If you listen to my other podcast I did on pre-post menopausal, we don't use fat as fuel as efficiently. So we might need to strategically add carbohydrates to get our body to use fat for fuel. And then optimizing endurance and energy utilization. Zone 3, this is where I think people train too much in. So that's why I'd love for everyone to get tested and wear a heart rate monitor when they train with their friends, because I see people in cycling groups and run groups pretty much look like zone 3. They're not zone 2, and they're not interval training. That's kind of why I am lame. I don't ride often with groups, running or biking, because I don't know how I'm going to feel. Sometimes my run is my struggle and I can't keep up with people. And even if I want to, I can't. My body just doesn't have that running strength in my legs. And I'm working on that, but I can't run in groups. So part of that is, listening to your own body and being intuitive. Zone 5, let's go. Zone 4 is where you can boost your VO2 max and enhance your ability to sustain high intensity exercise. Training zone 4 improves your body's anaerobic capacity and VO2 max through improvements in buffering capacity, lactate. And training in zone 5 is about maximizing your VO2 max and peak power output, focusing on high intensity intervals, or zone 5, I would do more of the sit training, sprint interval training. This improves your body's ability to perform at maximum speed or power, unlocking your true potential. So important to note that training zones are highly individualized and depend on your unique metabolism. Genetic equations or wearable devices can be off by 25%, making personalized training zones essential for accurate and effective training and really determining what your VO2 level is. So your training zone should serve as a compass guiding you training sessions and race day, but knowing, what's going on in your life and your sleep and your stress and food sensitivities that are going to impact your heart rate. By tailoring your workouts to specific zones, you address specific needs areas of opportunity. They say weaknesses, which I don't like that word, fostering growth and improvement. So training only if you know your personalized training zones limits your potential. So you really want to know where you're not doing enough training in. In Dr. Rhonda Patrick's podcast, I heard her say in 2 interviews that she does her Peloton bike every morning and does Tabatas 2 times through. So she does Tabatas for 10, 12 minutes. That's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds rest. She doesn't do recovery. She works hard on the recovery. And then she does like a 1 minute really hard, heavy resistance hill. And so she's truly not doing interval training. She's going hard for 12 minutes. Because if you listen to Daniel Crumback and myself chat and other shows I've done zone training talk, you need to go zone 4, zone 5 is 1 sprint. Come all the way down to zone 1. Stay there. Your heart rate settled down there. And then go hard again. If you're staying up there the whole time, you're not doing interval training. So you may not see as much benefits in your VO2 max. And PNOE is the state-of-the-art, metabolic analyzer provides gold standard accuracy in determining your personalized training programs. So with the insights we collect from the PNOE test that I do on clients, or you can find someone near you, gives you a clear plan to optimize your training and puts your zones into use, to practical use. So it takes 12 to 15 minutes to do the test. We do a parameter test check first with the perceived exertion level at level 6. What heart rate is that for you? What speed? And then go to a level 9 RPE just for a brief moment. See, okay, what speed are you at that in heart rate? And then I can do some calculations, and then I create a personalized protocol for your actual test and fuel accordingly what you normally do. And then also I want to experiment with taking ketones, HVMN, ketones beforehand, and then carbs or no carbs, and really see how that improves people's fat oxidation for especially the women. So that's, really taking out of the guesswork on how to fuel and train. And I think everyone's talking on these top podcasts about improving your VO2 max for longevity, doing zone 2 training. But if you are doing majority of your workout, 80% zone 2, and maybe you're doing 20% gray zone or 50-50, you probably could use an assessment, look at your workout program even, and let's adjust it. But really testing would be ideal. If you're going to spend all that time working out, you might as well figure out how to work out properly. So we want to look at all this data we can collect to figure out how you need to improve your VO2 max. So we're also analyzing your breath. So you have the mask on, measuring oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. You're breathing, right? You breathe in oxygen, carbon dioxide, you're exhaling. So doing a VO2 max test, or we call metabolic test, that's what Peter Attia, Dr. Huberman, they're talking about this VO2 to improve it. But if you're not getting the test, you don't know. So they should be promoting me testing in San Diego. So what can PNOE do? We can figure out your weight management program. I hate that word too. Kind of doesn't jive with me, but figure out your nutritional therapy plan, nutrient timing, matching your fueling and training based on the resting metabolic test, based on the exercise metabolism test. Then I do what people don't usually do, is add in a blood chemistry analysis, add in nutritional therapy, intake forms, 3-day or longer food and mood log, and all the just regular health history of your sleep and your stress and history of what you have been doing. So then we can create a personalized program based on all that data I collect, because the test itself will help us figure out the workout plan, the calories, macronutrient distribution, help figure out how we can improve your metabolism by figuring out how much you should do resistance training, how much strength training, resistance training and strength training, how much HIIT training intervals, and how much plyometrics are you doing each week. So that is so beneficial, and enhancing your performance of your heart, lungs, and cells. That's what we can do when we measure where are you now, and let's retest in 3 months, 2 months even, to get started, and identify those limiting factors and provide you a customized, a personalized plan. And then you can overcome those goals, and then we reset new goals when we test again. So this information we collect, the data, is data-driven protocols, and we can collect these valuable metrics for your training, for your racing, or just maybe you're not even racing, you just want to improve the aging process and train for life, train for your future self. And this also is going to give us info on movement economy, help us create those training zones, and figure out your fat, carb, protein requirements, or more of the fat than the carbs. Protein, we know, I go by the Dr. Gabrielle Lyons 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, I think is the easiest way, especially for athletes. We need more protein. So longevity. We want to measure your longevity. And so going back to the original point of this is VO2 Max can tell us your longevity. So longevity optimization is what we can figure out with a Pinoe metabolic test, because we are measuring truly your VO2 Max if you go that hard, because you actually are the one who has to go all out. The last interval, we're going to your max. So VO2 Max test is only accurate if you are pushing yourself to get there. So you need to be properly prepared to be rested before you do your test. We're looking at your cellular health, metabolic efficiency. So we're getting these powerful predictors that we're collecting of your lifespan and well-being. And this will help detect early risk factors as heart, lung, metabolic syndromes, and empowering you to take those proactive steps towards better health from this test, but even more so because I'm collecting your blood chemistry that you've done, and even ideally add more than your doctor will even do, like insulin and CRP, and look at your triglycerides, look at inflammation in your body. And then let's put that in my FDN practitioner notes of functional ranges and get rid of these normal ranges that are based on sick people that your doctor's giving you, and put them in functional optimal levels. And let's look at what that means if they're higher or lower than that optimal level. That will give us more clues to how to improve your longevity. So if you are ready to unlock your full potential, you can reach out to me. I can do the test in person, obviously, but the rest of it's online. So if you want to boost your performance, you want to improve your aging process, longevity, we need to dial in what's going on now and measure and not guess where you are in your VO2 max, because your breath is key to uncovering your body's weakest link, they say at Pinoe, and optimizing your nutrition and training, as well as your lifestyle habits. I talk about with the holistic method elements. The Pinoe test is just one more tool in my toolbox to help give you the best personalized program you can get. And analyzing your breath through Pinoe metabolic testing is easy, because we can measure as, again, your VO2 max, your movement economy, your training zones, and fuel usage. How much fat are you using at rest and carbohydrates at rest, and then during different intensities while you're doing the active test, because we'll be measuring your RQ value. Respiratory exchange ratio, remember from other shows, is the amount of fat is 0.7 on your RQ or RER, and then 1.0 is carbohydrate usage. So we can determine where you're burning most fuel and your calories and how much fat you're oxidizing at different levels of intensity. So just let me know if you want to get into this. But if you want to know what VO2 max is for you, we need to test and not guess. So let me know if you have questions, because we really do want to improve longevity, I hope, and know that this metabolic slowdown, metabolic disease is going to impact you. And you want to look at your genetics and what your family does, family history is. But we want to see that heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, metabolic chaos, all this we can improve, because chronic diseases are defined as conditions that have lasted 1 year or more and require ongoing medical attention and limit activities of daily living or both. And this article says 6 in 10 adults have chronic disease, and 4 in 10 adults have 2 or more: heart disease, cancer, chronic lung disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. So I would really look at being preventative. Even if you're fit and active, you may not necessarily be healthy on the inside out. So let's train our future self, as VO2 max is the strongest predictor of how long you live and how well you're going to live. So if we can measure that now so you can live longer and a better life, that should be the motivation to invest in your health. And you're doing all their exercise probably already, but let's clean it up and make sure you're doing everything the right way to improve your future self by doing a metabolic test, the breath analysis, because it is the gold standard to determine how the oxygen chain works in your body and indicate whether you have any areas of opportunity that you need tweaks and course correction to live a longer and better life. So we can find out specifically what areas need more work as oxygen chain, the lungs, the heart, the cells, or if we need some work to tweak in your sleep hygiene routine, your stress management, your overtraining or undertraining and strength training. So reach out for questions, but let me know what topics you want to have me dive into more. This one was to focus on what is VO2 Max, how can we test it, and why should we test it, and why do we need to improve it. So check out my website, debbiepotts.net, go to the blog page, and I put everything in there. So I'd love to hear from you. Check out the website. Instagram is Low Carb Athlete. Say hello. And then I'm at the Facebook page, Low Carb Athlete. So let's chat soon. But don't forget the YouTube channel, Low Carb Coach Debbie Potts. I put videos on there when I do my workout videos and interviews. Thanks. Have a great day. Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.